I was on my knees, picking up pieces of shattered porcelain from my apartment floor, when my brother said, "It's just an old teacup, Elena. Get over it." My mom stood behind him. "Why are you being so dramatic? It was an accident." But I saw Daniel smirking over her shoulder. What they didn't know was that old teacup was about to cost him more than he ever imagined. "My name's Elena. I'm 26. I work as a cataloger at a small local history museum. It's not glamorous. The pay's modest. But I love it. I've always been the sensitive one in my family, the one who cared too much about old things. Stories, objects with history. My parents never really got it. They favored my older brother Daniel. He's 29, works in corporate finance, pulls in a 6-figure salary. He's everything they wanted. Practical, successful, confident. 3 years ago, my grandmother passed away. She left me her entire antique collection, every piece. My family thought it was junk, pretty things gathering dust. But to me, it was everything. Grandma was the only person who ever understood me. She never made me feel like I was too much, too sentimental, too attached. I live alone in a small apartment. Most evenings, I'm at my desk researching antiques and preservation techniques, learning about makers, time periods, value. I wasn't flashy or rich like my brother, but I knew the value of things they couldn't see. That collection was my last connection to the one person who never made me prove I was enough. If you've ever been the black sheep in your family, drop your location below and let me know I'm not alone. So here's what happened. I invited my family over for dinner. I almost never did that. My apartment's small, and honestly, I usually felt judged whenever they visited. But I wanted to try. I thought maybe we could have one normal evening. Daniel showed up with his fiancée, Ashley. He was loud, a little drunk, talking over everyone. My parents arrived a few minutes later. We were sitting in the living room and I was in the kitchen plating appetizers when I heard it. The sound of porcelain clinking. I turned around and my stomach dropped. Daniel was holding my grandmother's teacup, the one from the display shelf, the one I'd told him 100 times not to touch. "Daniel, please put that down," I said. My voice was shaking. "You know how much—" "Relax," he interrupted. "I'm just looking at it." He kept gesturing with his hands while talking to Ashley. Big, careless movements. And then it slipped. The cup hit the hardwood floor and shattered. I froze. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Daniel laughed. "Oops, my bad." I got down on my knees and started picking up the pieces. My hands were shaking, tears streaming down my face. "Elena, honey, don't cry," my mom said. "It's just a cup. We can buy you a new one." "You can't replace this," I whispered. "Grandma drank from this every day. It's over 150 years old." Daniel shrugged. "Then maybe it should have been in a museum, not on a shelf where accidents happen." Ashley giggled nervously. My dad crossed his arms. "He's right, sweetheart. You're too attached to old things." Daniel pulled out his wallet. He peeled off a $20 bill and held it out to me. "Here," he said. "Go to Target. Get yourself a new set." I didn't take it. I just stared at him. "I think you all need to leave," I said quietly. My mom looked offended. "Elena, please, just go." They left, mumbling, annoyed. As Daniel walked out, I heard him mutter to Ashley, "She's always been dramatic. That junk isn't worth anything anyway." I sat alone on my floor, holding the broken pieces in my hands. And then, under the lamplight, I saw something I'd never noticed before. A maker's mark. Tiny, detailed, stamped into the base. The next morning, I woke up to a notification. I'd been added to the family group chat. My cousin had shared a meme. It said, "POV, Someone cries over a dish. Daniel had sent a laughing emoji. Then my mom's message came through. Elena, I think you owe your brother an apology for making such a scene in front of Ashley. I stared at my phone. I typed back. He broke something irreplaceable. My dad replied, your grandmother wouldn't want you holding grudges over material things. Then Daniel, seriously sis, you embarrassed me. Grow up. I muted the chat. I felt completely alone. That weekend, there was a family BBQ at my parents' house. I almost didn't go. But I thought maybe if I showed up, things would blow over. I was wrong. The second I walked in, the room went quiet. Then Daniel, loud enough for everyone to hear, said, hide the plates, everyone. Elena might have a meltdown. The whole family laughed. I stood there, frozen, holding a bottle of wine I'd brought. Ashley leaned over to my aunt and said, Daniel told me she hoards old junk. It's cute, I guess. My mom pulled me aside into the kitchen. Why can't you just apologize and move on? She said. You're dividing this family. I'm not the one who... It was an accident. She cut me off. Your reaction wasn't. Later, my dad made an announcement about Daniel and Ashley's engagement party. He asked my aunt and cousin to help plan it. He didn't ask me. I always helped before. As I left early, I overheard my aunt whisper to someone, good thing we're not using the fine china around her. A week later, Daniel called me. His tone was suspiciously friendly. So, Ashley's mom is really into antiques, he said. Weird coincidence, right? I didn't say anything. She wants to buy some pieces from your collection. You're not using that stuff anyway. You could make some money and prove it's not just a weird obsession. They're not for sale, I said. Come on, Elena. Ashley's mom offered $500 for the tea set. That's generous. Then he said it. The quiet threat. It'd really help the family, you know. I'd hate for this to keep you out of the wedding. I told him I'd think about it, just to get him off the phone. But I knew what I had to do. I brought the broken teacup to my workspace at the museum. I started documenting it, photographing it, researching that maker's mark. And what I found made my heart race. The teacup came from a rare 1870s European porcelain manufacturer. Only 200 pieces were ever made. Most were destroyed in a factory fire in 1891. Surviving pieces were selling at auction for $3,000 to $5,000 each. If the cup was worth that much, what about the rest of the collection? Over the next week, I cataloged everything. The complete tea set, the Victorian serving platters, the decorative plates. Conservative estimate? $40,000 to $60,000. What my family didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that I'd spent 3 years learning antique appraisal at the museum. I knew exactly what I had. I took detailed photos of everything, including the shattered teacup. I backed it all up to the cloud. And I screenshot every single group chat insult, every mocking text. I didn't tell my family a word. I let them think I was just being sensitive. My museum director, Patricia, noticed me working late. Elena, this collection is stunning, she said. Have you ever had it professionally appraised? I explained everything. The broken cup, the mockery. Patricia didn't hesitate. I know someone, a restoration specialist. Let me connect you. She introduced me to James, an independent appraiser with 30 years of experience. He agreed to do a full documentation and damage assessment. Meanwhile, Daniel kept texting. Ashley's mom is offering $500 for the tea set. I'd take it if I were you. I replied, I told you, not for sale. Fine, keep your junk. Just don't expect a big role in the wedding. My mom called too. Honey, $500 is very generous for old dishes. Why are you being stubborn? I didn't argue. I just listened. James finished the appraisal a few days later. The broken teacup could be restored. but its value was permanently reduced. Damage assessment: $2,800 in lost value, plus $1,500 for restoration. Total, $4,300. The full collection? $58,000. James looked at me across his desk. This is documented destruction of valuable property. You could take legal action. I scheduled a free consultation with a small claims attorney. The lawyer confirmed it. I could sue for replacement value, especially with all the documentation. Do you have proof? She asked. Witnesses? Everything, I said. Then the wedding invitation arrived in the mail. I wasn't in the bridal party. And there was a handwritten note from Daniel. Please don't bring any priceless antiques to the venue. I stared at that note for a long time. That's when I knew I was done. I scheduled a family meeting. I asked everyone to meet at my parents' house. They showed up annoyed. What's this about? My dad asked. I sat down at the dining room table. I brought a folder. This is about the teacup Daniel broke, I said calmly. Daniel rolled his eyes. Are you kidding me? That was a month ago. I slid a stapled document across the table. My mom picked it up. What is this? A professional appraisal of Grandma's collection, I said. The teacup Daniel broke was worth $4,200. Dead silence. My dad blinked. That's impossible. I calmly laid out the photos, the maker's mark research, comparables from auction houses, the appraiser's letterhead. Daniel's voice was shaking. You're making this up. The full collection Grandma left me is valued at $58,000, I said. And you destroyed part of it. Ashley whispered, stunned. You told me it was garbage. My mom tried to recover. Even if that's true, it was an accident. I opened a second folder, printed screenshots, the group chat, the texts, all the insults. I read them aloud. Hide the plates. She's dramatic. Old junk. You all mocked me, I said. You tried to pressure me into selling priceless heirlooms for $500 to impress your in-laws. Daniel leaned forward. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was worth... You didn't care to know, I interrupted. That's the difference. I slid a third document across the table, a demand letter from my attorney. This is a demand for $4,300, I said. The cost of the destroyed item plus restoration of what's left. My dad's face went red. You're suing your own brother? He can pay me directly, I said, or I file in small claims court Monday. His choice. Daniel stood up. This is insane. No, I said. Insane was offering me $20 for a $4,000 heirloom. This is called accountability. I showed one final photo, the shattered cup on my floor. Time stamped the night of the dinner. Ashley turned to Daniel, horrified. You laughed about it. My mom's voice broke. Can't we just work this out as a family? I stood up. Family doesn't treat each other like this, I said. You all taught me that. I gave Daniel 48 hours to respond. Then I left. 2 days later, I got a bank transfer. $4,300. No apology. No call. Just the money. Daniel sent one text. We're even. I didn't reply. I used the money to have the teacup professionally restored. The expert did incredible work. You could barely see the cracks. I donated 3 pieces from the collection to the museum in my grandmother's name. They installed a small bronze plaque in the display. In memory of Dorothy Harmon, who taught us to see beauty. Patricia offered me a promotion, assistant curator. I accepted. I declined the wedding invitation. Polite note, no explanation. I blocked the family group chat. My mom called several times, left tearful voicemails. I didn't engage. 6 months later, I saw on social media that Daniel and Ashley were divorcing. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction. not sadness, just peace. I'd moved on. Last week, I visited the museum exhibit with my grandmother's donated pieces. Then I went home and looked at the restored teacup on my shelf. I finally understood something Grandma tried to tell me. The people who love you don't make you prove your worth. And the things worth keeping aren't always the ones that cost the most. But they're always the ones that matter. If you've ever had to fight for something that mattered, even when your own family didn't understand, hit subscribe. Drop your location in the comments. I read everyone, and I want to know where you're watching from. Have you ever been dismissed or mocked for caring too much? Tell me your story below. You're not alone. Thanks for being here. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is value yourself when no one else will.